How fast should I run my 10K? This is a question that might be on your mind at this time of year. It's coming into spring in the Northern Hemisphere, at least. And you might be coming up to a 10K race like I am this weekend. And you're wondering, how fast should I run this race? And if you're anything like me, if you've had a bit of a gap from the 10K, the last time I did one was a year ago, and your fitness has increased or decreased significantly since then, you might be thinking, that race pace that I had in mind when I started training for this 3 or 4 months ago is looking a little bit out of date. Maybe it's a bit too fast or maybe it's a bit too slow. So today I'm just going to walk through how I estimate my own race pace for this 10K and how you can do the same for yours. So something we'll do with our runners when we're coaching them for a race, they've usually had significant amount of time off running that race distance because of injury, which is why they come to us usually. Or sometimes people are looking to get back into running after a significant absence from it and coming to us because they want to do it without getting hurt. Because of that, it means that a lot of the runners we're working with have not got like back-to-back races that we can just look at and say, oh, you did your last 10K in 53 minutes, so let's try and beat that in the next one a couple of months later, because we haven't got that recent data to look at. So what we want to try and do is get some sort of estimate. If my last 10K race was a year ago, and I think my fitness has changed since then, mine I think has improved, what do I think is a good race pace target for me? Because if I did it in just under 51 minutes at the Calgary 10K last year, what could I do at this race this weekend potentially, and what should I aim for if I think that just beating last year's time, the last 10K I did, which was a year ago and I wasn't as fit, if I think that is maybe a little bit too conservative. So one of the things that I've been doing and we do for our other runners is to use fast finish runs to estimate rough targets for race pace. So for example, for the 10K, we would take runs that were either 45, 60 or 1 hour, 15 minutes long, and then spend the last 15 minutes just going as fast as you can, take the average pace for that time, and use that as an estimate for 10K race pace. The other one we can do is if it's a half marathon or a marathon, we take the long run and we make the last half hour just go as fast as you can. So for a half marathon, we might have a 2-hour run with a 30 minutes at the end at max pace. Whatever that athlete can hold at the max pace for that last 30 minutes becomes a target for their race pace. And we'll usually try and do 2 or 3 of these in the 1 or 2 training blocks. Training blocks are 4 weeks long when we work with people. So in the month or 2 prior to the race, we'll try and do 2 or 3 of these at least, so we can get some sort of reasonable estimate of what that race pace should be. So if you're able to toggle on the video, do go ahead and do that now. I'll show you what is going on my calendar and walk you through how we did this over the last couple of weeks for me. But if you're just listening into your car when you're driving, or if you're out running, don't worry about it. I'll explain what we're looking at. So we've got the 10K race that I'm doing coming up this Sunday. It's Monday today. And then we've got the last 2 weeks of training. So 2 weeks ago on the Tuesday, I did a fast finish run. So it was 45 minutes long. And I had to basically run in zone 3, which is a comfortably hard pace for the first 30 minutes. And then for the last 15 minutes, I essentially just went at max pace, which means that I just held the maximum pace that I felt like I could hold for 15 minutes at that point in time, because I was already quite tired from doing 30 minutes in tempo pace. And I managed to hold a 7:32 minutes per mile, which would put me at 46 minutes and 49 seconds for the 10K, which would be considerably faster than the just under 51 minutes I did this time last year. So much so that I actually think that is a little bit progressive as a target and a little bit ambitious. In the following week, we did another fast finish run. So we did 60 minutes just a few days ago. And the last 15 again, I had to hold the maximum pace that I could. And at that time, after running for 45 minutes at zone 3 pace, the last 15 minutes, I'm just going as fast as I can. I held 7:43 minutes per mile. That would put me at 47 minutes and 57 seconds finish time for the 10K. So it's reasonable to estimate that my 10K race pace at my current fitness as of right now is somewhere between a 47 and 48 minutes, maybe sub 47 or sub 48 for the 10K. So a good target for me might be like a 7:40 minute mile pace, which would have me come under a 48 minute 10K, which would be like 3 minutes quicker than what I did last year, which at the same time of 51 minutes, which would be a significant improvement. So now based on my current data, just from a couple of runs over the last couple of weeks, I can estimate that it's somewhere between a 7:40, maybe a 7:45 is a good pace for me. So I can go into my race with some relatively accurate race pace targets. I can try and hold 740. If that feels a little bit too ambitious after a few kilometers, I could pull back to a B goal of 45 minutes per mile, either of which would see me come in under 50 minutes, which I would be really pleased with. That'd be a PR for me. But definitely both of them are going to be considerably better than the 51 minutes for the 10K. So this method of estimating race pace obviously is not 100% accurate. We're looking for a ballpark pace, right? Somewhere between 740 and 750 minute miles based on what I just talked about is a good target race pace for me for the 10K. That's much better than just trying to go off feel, because if I just go off feel, for the first 5 kilometers, I'll feel awesome and I'll run too fast. And for the last 5 kilometers, I'll feel like I want to puke and I will barely be running at all. But if I just go off my last 10K time, if it was a year ago, and I feel like I'm a lot fitter since then I'd be being too conservative, right? I might target a 50-minute pace and then realize halfway through that I could have ran much faster. So I want something that's more accurate to estimate my race pace. And this is a useful method, using these fast finishes when you've had a long time since you've done that race distance. If you've done that race distance within the last 2 or 3 months, definitely, then you can much more use the race pace that you hit at that time and try and beat it. If your training has gone well, you'll try and beat it by a decent amount. If your training has gone badly, you might try and just beat it by a little bit or even match it. Obviously, that's going to be fairly accurate, because the best determinant or best way to measure race pace is to do the race and see what you get. But if we don't want to do that, because we could do like a 10K time trial for me, but that means I'm going to be running at max effort for like 45 to 50 minutes. And it's going to take me a few days to recover from that. And that's going to mean I'm going to miss 3 or 4 days that I could be otherwise training, doing good strength and running training to further increase my fitness. So doing too many time trials, if they are longer than 5K, tends to be detrimental to your overall training. So using fast finishers can be a nice little way to estimate the race pace without having to do a full time trial at that distance. So if you've got a 10K coming up and you haven't done one in a while, run as fast as you can for the last 15 minutes of a 45 or 60 or 1 hour 15-minute run, and then see what your average pace is during that last 15 minutes. That's a decent estimate of your potential 10K pace right now.